my background, my educational background is in industrial engineering and also in Lean Six Sigma. I have been in QPR roughly 4 months now, working with process mining, and I'm here to talk about the purchase to pay process and what sort of role process mining can play in it. For today's agenda, I'm just going to go quickly through the typical challenges that are involved in the purchase to pay processes, and of course, like how we can tackle these challenges using process mining. And that we'll be discussing like how to do process discovery, how to discover the as-is processes within your PTP processes, how to identify problems, and how to tackle compliance issues using process mining. Also, how to monitor and improve your processes through dashboarding. And if we have time, we're going to go through some questions that you can post in the question box, as Yen mentioned. So first of all, just to get a bit of an overview of what is process mining, you can have like this full online course in Coursera about it by Vilde van der Aalst, but I'll save you some time and just condense it as process mining is series of activities where we take the raw data in your ERP systems, your CRM systems, and BPM systems, and you want to turn that data into insights, into figures, and based on the insights, you want to make data-driven decisions to drive your business forward, and that way save money, increase revenue, you name it. But essentially, from data to business value, that's where process mining plays a role. Now, every organization understands that there are certain ways of operating within your business environment. And for example, someone's purchase to pay process could look something like this: that you started with a shopping cart created, you approve it, there's a PO item created, and you have a couple of other steps, and then eventually you pay the invoice, you're done. Well, the thing is that when you look at the real life data and how things actually work, it actually becomes a lot more complicated, because you have a bunch of rework. There are certain purchase orders which are not following the expected procedure. There's a lot of rework, there's a self-looping, there's sometimes things get stuck somewhere, and you want to understand why that happens. And that's also like if you want to look at, for example, what happened before there was a net price change in your PO item, what happened afterwards, what were the root causes. And that's what we're essentially here to talk about. Now, of course, sounds nice, but why exactly? And there's a nice article by Harvard Business Review where they essentially concluded that a lot of companies actually don't think about so much about what they're currently doing, and they're more focused on what they want to do in the future. The issue is that, especially like from Lean's perspective, you cannot really make effective change if you don't understand where you are right now. And that's when you don't do the analysis yourself, there's a tendency that companies outsource the understanding your own company and how it operates, and that results into paying expensive consultants to do the job for you when you could really do it yourself, and you save money from that point of view alone. Now, talking about the challenges. So typical challenges in purchase to pay processes are, first of all, the conformance and compliance issues. So for example, Maverick Buying, which is when you pay a PO before you receive the invoice, for example. This is a very, very common issue that people take shortcuts in the purchase to pay process. You have certain process irregularities. There are things that you would not want to happen, but happen. So these are like essentially price changes, material changes. There's a call a bunch of them. And just a moment. I can see again. So you want to be aware of those, and you want to know how to tackle them. And of course, there are a lot of RPA or automation initiatives happening in many companies, and you want to understand how to identify the opportunities and how to prioritize the opportunities. So first of all, there is a three-step process, like what I'm here to talk about. First of all, you want to discover your as-is process. And you want, as I said previously, in order to build the future, you need to understand the current situation. And there are several ways and several different analyses you can do to discover your as-is process. So you can analyze the lead times or durations. You can do analysis on where something is happening and what are the contributors, what are the case attributes. And by case attributes, I mean like which company codes, in which countries is this happening, in which products have tendencies to deviate from the standard process. And of course, you want to understand the process flow in general. So I'm just gonna do like a very quick demonstration of how you can do this with QPR software. So I'm just gonna go through quickly like how to check for your process flows, how to find bottlenecks, how to find process steps which have a lot of rework in them, and of course like the duration analysis on those. So I'm now logged into the process analyzer software. I go to process discovery. I have chosen the purchase to pay model over here. So we're now on the left side, we have the flow chart, which is based on the original raw data that you get from the ERP system. I believe this may be from SAP. And of course, like you have the option of having a very minimal view. So let's say just only very few items, or you can like add more events into the view, event types. And here you have the option to add more flows in there. And as you add more flows, you start seeing more arrows that might catch your attention. When we think about the process bottlenecks, we have the option of looking at the case duration, for example. And we might want to look at, for example, in this view, let's say that I want to look at cases whose end-to-end duration is more than 30 weeks. So I just pick that area over there. I click OK. Now on the left side, we have the process flow chart for cases which take longer than 30 days. So now we can look at the flow durations. So in here, for example, from goods received to invoice document dates, the average duration is 15 days, 15, 16 days. So we can like evaluate like why this is. We also have the bunch of rework over here. So we have this self loop happening. The invoice received is happening after invoice receipt. You can see here on the top the case flowing through invoice receipt to invoice receipt. And that's one of the few ways you can do the analysis. You can also check out from the case attributing if we want to look at which subsidiaries or the parts of the company have the tendency to take this long. So here we see that Germany, China, Italy, these are kind of have the longest lead times. But this is just scraping the surface. There's like we have a range of different types of analysis. which I'm more than happy to show at a different time, but I want to make sure that we cover the most important things. So now that we have started out with the discovering the process, the next step naturally will be identifying the issues. And this is where root cause analysis comes into play. So what you use the root cause analysis for is identifying the relationships between different events, different characteristics of cases and purchase orders. And you want to kind of understand a little bit about relationship on that. So I'll also do a very quick demonstration on that. So I'm just going to show how root cause analysis works, how you can use it, and also I will touch very quickly on conformance analysis as well. So for this, I have the option here to, like, if for example, I'm interested in a very particular event. I'm just gonna change from the analysis over here. I'm just gonna change to the event types, and I get over here a list of different types of events. So I'm gonna just go through them. Is there something that interests me? I see, for example, the invoice block deactivated. I see that it happens a bunch of times, so I'm just gonna choose it. I'm gonna make a root cause of it, so it will appear here in the red. On the right side, I'm now going to change to the root cause analysis, and I will explain both of them in a bit. I'm just gonna load them on the screen so you can see both of them at the same time. On the left side, I'm gonna do the process flow chart again. And now that I have activated the root cause analysis, I can see, for example, that when, well, let's start from the right, actually. That's a little more straightforward. So what you can see on the right here is the case attribute root cause analysis. So what this does is it kind of ranks different factors that are influencing different purchase orders. So I can see, for example, now the EMEA region has a overall 15% impact on the invoice block deactivated. And what this does is that it makes a comparison between average cases. So we can see here on the top that on average, actually, I'm going to take that away just to, okay, I see. So on average, there's an invoice block 37% of the time. Now, when we look at, for example, the PO type, PO standard, we see that whenever a purchase order is a standard order, the invoice block deactivated happens 46% of the time, which is roughly 9% more than on average. And since the volume of standard POs is so high, we're now talking about 18,000 cases out of the 34,000 cases. So since the occurrence of the invoice block happens half the time, that's what brings the average up. So if we ignored PO standard completely, the overall average would go down. I want to really so that's the idea behind the root cause analysis and the flowchart analysis. I find like a more interesting root cause analysis in this case to be, so let's say that I want to see in the layer part of the process something in particular. Let's say I want to look at quality inspection. I want to understand where the quality inspections are happening, what are happening, what led to this situation. So I'm gonna again click here in the quality inspection, and what I can see from here is that the quality inspections are happening more often in the United States, in Latvia, this particular vendor, the Prohaskamo and Pfeffer. And what I can see on the left is that in this, whenever there's a shopping cart, quality inspections never happen. Although on average, when they go through here, it's like a half time. But we see that quality inspections happen more often when there's a PR involved. Let me see if I can find some extras. And there are also there are PO item changes a bit more often. So on average, it would be 12%, but when there's a quality inspections, there was also a net price involved. So you can see from here that the PO changes kind of compile and add on top of each other. Now, talking about the conformance. So this is what our conformance tool looks like. I'm just gonna add the BPMN model, and the BPMN is something that is used pretty much everywhere. At least most companies use this BPMN and 2.0 notation. So I'm just gonna apply that. I'm just gonna add the filtering I had prepared beforehand, and just take that away. And what we get over here is a list of top violations on this part of the visual. And you can also check the overall conformance of the organization. So now it's like 27%, like a company overall is complying with the designed process model. You can also, what you can use this for is if you want to check out like individual conformances. So I want to look at case attribute, company code. I want to take a look at Sweden, for example. How is Sweden complying? So the average is now 27%. I apply this additional filter, and what I get is Sweden's process over here. So like just by comparison, if I delete that, you see that the conformance level changes over here. It's roughly 27-30%. I add Sweden, and there, and like it goes a bit down. So like the Swedish conformance is like somewhere in 6-11, these sort of things. Now I got the right number, 7.6. So now we're looking at Sweden. You're doing on average so much worse than the rest of the company. Why is that? So what we see now here in the top violations are the list of Swedish events, and we see that 53.8% of the time they have PO item changed net price. So more than half the time the net price changes. So when we go to the root cause analysis again, so we might want to look at there's a couple of ways of doing it. So one way would be to pick the net price over here and make a analysis on that alone. But I just want to, for demonstration purposes, well, let's do this first. So if I include the net price as a like root cause analysis, I can see also that 92% of the time there's a PR involved, and almost always there's also a vendor change that's happening. So that's quite curious. So I'm just gonna change the analysis to demonstrate the other thing I want to show. So if I take that net price change away from the root cause analysis, and I'll move, I want to understand how company Sweden compares to the rest of the organization. So I now made the Sweden the root cause analysis, and what we can see from the flowchart again basically is that the red means that something happens a lot more often, and blue means that something happens a lot less often. And you can use this information to just have a discussion with the Swedish branch, like, hey, what's up? Why is this going like this? Whereas if let's change to a different one. I don't want to pick on Sweden too much. Let's say I want to look at how does Spain compare to the rest of the organization. So what I see from here, that in the Spanish branch, they don't do PRs apparently. Maybe I could use like a bigger part of the company to take a look. Let's take a Germany. What does Germany do compared to everyone else? Well, we can see again that the net price happen a bit more often. But essentially, like what I want to show with this particular view and the power of the root cause analysis is that you can with very few clicks, you can make comparisons between different parts of organization of the company doing the same processes. Now, while we still have time, I also wanted to talk about the third step. So we started with discovering, then we identify, and next we monitor. So we want to do a bit of a continuous analysis of what's going on in the company. So with monitoring, or the dashboarding as we call it, you use the real data from your own systems. And what we have to offer is like we have a range of pre-made applications for different sorts of analysis you can do. And of course, the dashboards are a bit more advanced than the process discovery I showed earlier, because you have a lot of like customizability, you have a lot of flexibility, what you want to show, and they also have the capability of drilling down deep into the information. And I just wanted to show you just a couple of examples we have. So I'm gonna first go quickly through our Maverick Buying dashboard. Then I'll be going through the case automation, and then I'll go through net price changes, so that you get a brief idea what you can do with them. So this is very simple. You just go from the top menu. We have the Maverick Buying here. So here we have the dashboards. Here we have the other parts with software, and like that's the whole navigation menu. So starting with the Maverick Buying, and what we have on the top left, we have the main KPI. So we have how many purchase orders are there total in the data set. So we have 33,000, about 1,000 of them have been filtered out. Total value is 557 million euros. And when this is counting how many purchase orders went through Maverick Buying and what was the value of the purchase order that went through Maverick Buying. So what we have here is just an overall calculation of how many purchase orders have been done in a wrong order. On the top right, we have the trend of like how much there has been Maverick Buying over time. So you can follow your progress as you're going along. Here in the middle, we have how much there has been Maverick Buying per different branches. So here in Germany, we have 1.9%. In Luxembourg, 19% of purchase orders are Maverick Buying, and so forth. And you have like a calculation of how much money you can potentially save by extinguishing the Maverick Buying instances that are happening in the different branches of the company. Here you have the possibility to check out the differences between different case attributes, different vendors, for example. Like so here, the Hunt, Reichel, and Little, they have a lot of Maverick Buying going on. So if I were to take a look at that, like what's going on, these are, I guess, they had like one Maverick Buying over there, but they had like a lot of cases. In that case, that was probably not the best example. Let's take a look at the, well, since we have the countries here, let's take a look at the Luxembourg, because I already mentioned it. So let's take a look at Luxembourg. How are their trends going? And you see that it's going up and down a lot. And the important thing here is that whenever you make filtering within the dashboard, all the other elements of the dashboard follow as well. Of course, that's not all. We also have the root cause analysis that I mentioned earlier over here, and you can just very quickly, with just a very quick glance, you have a big overall picture of where now we have chosen that the Maverick purchasing is happening. That's the root cause analysis. So we can see that the PO shopping cart has a lot of Maverick buying. By comparison, we see that flowers tend to have a Maverick buying, at least this part of your material group in this part of your data set. And so just with few clicks in few minutes, just by scrolling by, you can see that, well, here we have again a vendor, the Kilpack file and Reichel. They have 94% of the time their POs are Maverick. And of course, here in the bottom, we have the possibility to look at all the individual purchase orders. If you want to inspect any particular cases, you want to really drill down to from the top high level to the very low and detail. You can do it over here. So that's Maverick Buying. I also had two others I wanted to show. So let's go to the case automation. So I mentioned as one of the challenges that there's a difficulty in identifying and prioritizing automation opportunities. So what we have here, for example, in this dashboard, you can take a look at how the increased amount of manual activities influences the lead times, for example. So like this is like in this particular bubble chart, you can see that when the amount of manual activities increase, the lead time also increases. So that's kind of that gives you a way to monitor the influence of manual events. And if you manage to decrease the amount, the expectation, of course, is that the end-to-end lead times will also decrease. So now that you have the tools available, you can do that with this particular one. You can also follow the touchless order rates and like the automation levels of individual events. So in here we have invoice receipt, we have goods receipt, invoice payment, PO item created, shopping cart approved, shopping cart created, PR created. In this particular demonstration model, these are the events we have chosen, but of course, this can be adjusted to your own needs. And here in the bottom table, we have a list of like distinct manual events and how often they occur and how long they tend to take. Like how long does the purchase order or case take, depending on how many events and which events, more importantly, are manual. And last but not least, I have the net price changes. So as I mentioned, we also want to understand the changes that are going on in the processes. And this follows a very similar logic as the Maverick Buying one. So we have the KPIs of like all of the cases or POs, all of the like the values of like the total value of all the POs, and like how many POs go through the net price change, and what is the value of all the cases that go through net price change. And more importantly, we have the division here of if the price has changed before or after the invoice has been received. You can also do like that sort of analysis, a very detailed, very, I wouldn't say niche, but very like specific analysis can be done through the dashboarding feature over here. Again, here we have the different subsidiaries. You can see that price change rate is like, let's just take a look at where is it most common. So I just did the sorting. I'm going to look at the size over here, and it looks like, well, this has grouped all of these together, but we see that in Sweden, again, we have 53.1% of the cases have the net price change happens in their POs. And like these sort of things, just with a few clicks, you get this information right away. And again, we have the root cause analysis, and we have the individual cases. So once again, we have the possibility to go from very, very high level to very small details in the analysis. Now, I think that was it. Yeah. So that was my presentation on how to use process mining in purchase to pay process. I'm more than happy to take any questions. Let me see if come over here. Let me see. I see. Do you have any project in France? Yes, we do. We do have some customers in France currently. I can't really tell right now which ones, but yes, we do operate in like over 50 countries, covers a lot of Europe. We have a bunch of projects also in other continents, and yeah, mostly in Europe though.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that by the end of this month, the QPR Process Analyzer 2020.5, the next release will have the French version. So the language will, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we are expanding in our languages, and the French will be coming for the next release. Any others? I see how to evaluate cost savings of RPA initiatives. Yeah, RPAs are like robotic process automation is a quite hot topic. There's I already talked about like automation earlier, and we do have like one dashboard for that. We have the variations automation. So what we have on this particular dashboard is like when I show the case automation, it's basically does an analysis of which cases are more automated than others are. So in the variation automation, what you can do then is evaluate which combination of events tend to take longer. And in this particular case, we have a calculation here in the bottom of, like, I'll just briefly explain how to read it. So we have the event type. So event type means like one of the event boxes essentially in here. So when you have invoice receipt, it is in here in the center. And what the previous event means that what is the event before it, quite self-explanatory. So in this case, we have the invoice receipt PO item created. So it refers to this particular path over here. So when an event goes from a case goes from PO item created to invoice receipt, that has been automated roughly 56% of the time. So there's a certain internal calculation. I won't go into too much detail about that one, but it basically makes a comparison of manual events and automated events, and basically how long when this particular process step or process transition was done, how long it took when it was done manually, and how long it took when it was done automatically. And based on that, we see here, for example, roughly 400 hours could be saved if you move from manual to automation. And when you calculate, multiply that by the amount of cases, and you take into consideration the activity cost per hour of activity, these are the potential savings we have over here. And this has been done in such a way that it doesn't, it ignores cases where there's not that much change if you automate it, or if the situation gets actually worse if you automate a step. So here, in this case, we have the biggest saving potential is in the invoice received PO item created. But of course, process mining is not about magic or like giving the answers like numbers are in, give me answers. That's not how it works. Process mining is it's a tool to give you information on where to start your process improvement projects or your process improvement initiatives. And for that, I think Bill van der Ast said best that it is a tool among other tools. So do not expect it to be like magic wand solve every single problem, but it gives you a bit of an indication of where you are going with your ideas and what you're thinking. Any other questions? I have still some time. I will be more than happy to answer them. There's one, how well do you need to know the QPR software to use it? That depends on like, you don't have to be super proficient to use it. We have different like user levels. So there are those who, like we have the business users who mainly their main concern is to kind of get the numbers and see like where what they're showing and to make the decisions. There are the analysts, and then there are the developers and administrators. And depending on like what your goal is, you can study it quite a bit, but I can just like for demonstration purposes, I can show that we have a lot of, if I just like make a quick example of a new dashboard, how it works. I'll get a couple of elements over here, and I'm good with that. I'm just gonna put all cases. And if you want to do like just like a quick and dirty analysis, you can use the presets we have. So we have a bunch of pre-made stuff besides the dashboards. So like if you want to look at we did in the case analysis, the process discovery, we did the case attribute profiling, for example. You can just click here and it shows up right here the same way as previously. And you can also do a whole bunch of stuff actually when you think about it. So if I want to take a look at particular flows, I can do that in here. And we also have the pre-made RPA, robotic process automation chart views or the graphs you can do. So for example, we have the automation per event types. Here we have right away sorted information on which events are like, first of all, most frequent and what is the distribution of their automation level. So we can see, for example, that goods receipts are automatic roughly 40% of the time and manual roughly 60% of the time. Like on that one, we can have a look at manual activities per case, which shows This one actually was used in the case automation. It was a donut chart in the top. So you can just like quite simply click and choose and see what interests you the most. But then we also have the possibility to do a bunch of customization, either by picking these drop-down menus. We have like a lot of things you can go through. There's also a possibility to do use JSON, for example. So if you're familiar with JSON, you can also use that. And the sky is the limit. But you don't have to be super proficient to use software. But we do provide a range of trainings, and we have also training videos available online. So the more you'd like to learn, the more is possible to do. Maybe I'll just kind of close from my side, unless something else comes up. The business value of process mining. I personally come from a lean background, so I have a bit of a kind of a knack for very detailed information, working with their dirty data. And when I joined QPR, actually, when I realized the power of process mining, it was just a mind-blowing thing for me, because you get so much information that otherwise is really hard to gather up, especially in the data collection phase. And it's the beauty of using process mining tools for improving your process is that the data is already there. You just need to make them talk to you, in a sense. There are tools available. We are one of the many vendors, and I hope that you have learned something from the past 45 minutes or so. At least I had like a good time. You can reach me or the marketing team via email anytime.